Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's me again, Chelsea, and today we are doing the happy video of the wrap up. We are doing best books of 2022. I have got a huge stack, as you would have seen in the thumbnail, so let's just get straight on into it. The first book I'm going to talk about I don't actually own, and that is A Promised Land by Barack Obama. It is also the only non-fiction I think I read this year, and it was 5 stars. It was amazing. It was inspirational. It was confusing at times, being a Brit. Because he talks obviously a lot about the politics of America and the presidential campaign and what goes into a presidential campaign, and I found it really educational. Actually, I learnt a lot. I don't still really understand the Republicans and the Democrats. I didn't understand it when I lived there. I don't understand it now, but obviously it is something that is explained quite well, I think, in this book, and despite not completely understanding, I didn't feel like I couldn't enjoy his story of how he became president, which was good. I have also previously read Michelle Obama's non-fiction about Barack Obama's presidential campaign, so it was really nice to actually see the other side of it. Hers was obviously focused a lot on their kids and her life and their family element and how it affected them not being politicians, and then his was obviously more political. So I feel like I don't know, I learnt more from Barack's, but I felt more from Michelle's. Does that make sense? Yeah, 5 stars, really recommend it. If you haven't read these non-fictions and you're thinking, oh, why would I? I'm not really a non-fiction reader. Do it. They're really good. I really enjoyed it, and like I said, I learnt a lot. So that is always a good thing. Next up, we have got Rune of Kings. Now this is the only book in this series that I gave 5 stars to, because the storytelling technique was unique. I hadn't seen it before, and then you see it further in all 5 books. But this one I really enjoyed. I liked the time elements of this book, and it really brought me into the series. There's a lot of world building and learning the context, while also going on the trip with Kieran, who is our main character. We are hearing his story from 2 different perspectives, but they are both his. So one is before this whole big thing happens in his life. I'm not explaining this very well. Basically, this story, we start with Kieran being captured by someone that we don't really know, and she asks him to tell her the story of his life. So he starts at a specific point, and she interrupts him after a chapter and goes, no, that's not the point that I mean this point. And then she starts retelling his tale as well. So they flip-flop between the 2 of them, him carrying on from the point that he started, and her starting from much earlier in his life. So that means we get a lot of backstory, and we learn an awful lot, and I liked that about this book. I learned a lot. I enjoyed it. It pulled me in, and it made me want to carry on the series. Then the rest of the series wasn't as much as I wanted, but I still really enjoyed it. Overall, it's a 4-star series, but I wanted to mention this in my best books of 2022 because obviously I loved the first book, and this was definitely my favourite of the whole series. And if you didn't know, I read that series as part of this It's All About Fantasy book club, which the Twitter is always linked down below. It is run by myself, the lovely Lisa, and Kate, and like I said, check out the Twitter down below. This month we are starting the Greenbone Saga if you wish to come and join us, and yes, that is self-promo, but I don't care. Next, we are going to be talking about this beautiful book by Stephen Orion, and this is The Warrior. So this is the sequel to The Coward. I was very kindly sent a copy of The Coward, an ebook copy of The Coward, to read when I was part of the book, not the book, it was a book Discord, but it was the SFF Oasis. It has since changed its name and all sorts, but I was very lucky to receive a copy of that, and then I also was very lucky and was sent a physical arc by them for The Warrior. Now this series, this is the broken binding special edition. I have The Coward on the shelf, and it's very, very pretty. I loved this. So The Coward, we follow a main character called Cal, who has in the past journeyed to the far north to defeat this evil thing that was happening many years ago, and now it is 10 years later, and he is being called by the king to go and do the same thing again, as something is happening in the north. And I really enjoyed it. But the reason this one's on this list and not that was a 4-star, this was a 5-star. I feel like I was more emotionally invested in this book partially because obviously the first one we got all the world building and we learnt the characters, and there are some reappearing characters in this book from that book, but there are also some more traumatic events that happen, and we're not just following Kel in this, we're following Kel on his adventure and then another character that is tied into Kel, and I loved it. I loved it. It was so good. So good. So yeah, check out this series if you haven't already. Definitely 5 stars, definitely really enjoyed it, and I am very excited because Stephen has got another book coming out this year called Judas Bloom. You bet your bottom dollar I have applied for an arc of it because I'm so excited. But I also have Battle Mage on my shelves, which is a series of his that I wish to get to this year. So I really hope that I find more of his books that I can love and enjoy. Stepping away from fantasy for a moment and going into sci-fi, we have got Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. 5 stars, love this book so much. So our main character in this, his name escapes me, is Ryland Grace, and he wakes up on a ship in space, not remembering anything and not even remembering his name for like a tiny bit until that part of his memory comes back, and he is just in space and he doesn't remember why he's there, and he has to figure out why he's in space, what is the purpose. And I love how this book was written. I listened to the audio for this book, it was phenomenal. It's just so much. This is such a good book. All of the rave reviews for this book are so on point for me. I 100% agree. I loved them. They are fantastic. There are some really cool elements in this book with the main event that happens to Ryland Grace. But I think the thing that Andy Weir does very, very well is he writes scientific things out in a way that don't make you feel stupid, because I'm not a sciencey person at all. But he wrote all of this book, and there are obviously main parts of it that are very much talking about science and space and other sciencey things that I don't understand, but he wrote them in a way that, not that I understood them and I didn't become like a sudden super genius, but in a way that didn't detract from the story and still made me enjoy the story, while also, you know, trying to be educational. But I don't think he's trying to be educational, just being like informative in the right way, and I loved that. And that is what I loved about this. And then carrying on from this book, the other book of his that I read this year, which was The Martian, which I also really enjoyed, and that is also a film I haven't seen. I think I've seen the end of the film, maybe. I don't know if it was the right film. The end of that film, which is, well, not talking about the film, going back to the book. The book is following a character who, again, I suck at names, I can't remember what his name is, but they are on the final part of their mission, and then something goes wrong and he ends up stranded in space, and everyone else has gone off planet and they are heading back to Earth. And it is the whole idea of how, one, you handle that from a PR point of view, two, this man's like undeniable determination to survive. He does so many things that I wouldn't even think of. Very smart, again showing how smart one, Andy Weir is to write this, but also how smart he makes his characters. Obviously they're in space, they're astronauts, but the way he puts things together and comes up with solutions to problems, and again it's the same in this, how they come up with problems, how they come up with solutions to the problems of which they're given. They don't have access to a supermarket or air even, so it's very impressive, and I really enjoyed both books, and I will read anything that man writes. I think he's now an author for me because it's phenomenal, and I think I've got one more book that I haven't read from him yet, but it is on my list to read, so that is the plan. But yeah, favourite sci-fi dude of the year, 100%. Next up, continuation of series by an indie author that we all know and I definitely love, Ryan Carrell. So these are the two that I read this year. Of Darkness and Light and The Exile, both 5 stars, loved them both dearly. Cannot tell you an awful lot about either of them, obviously, due to, you know, spoiling the series, but I loved them. So this is his latest novella, which focuses on one character and their backstory, essentially, and they appear in this, and this gives you backstory to this, which is quite good, and I really enjoyed that aspect. This series I love dearly. It has got a special place in my heart. I literally, as of today, have received my arc of War and Ruin, which is the next book in this series, and guys, it's like 1,500 pages long. Don't know how I'm going to do it, but we're going to see. I'm going to try really hard to read that before a certain date, but I don't think it's going to happen, but I'm going to try. So yeah, I love this series, as always. Will forever continue to buy whatever Ryan writes because he is phenomenal. And yeah, more 5 stars to add to this list. Definitely check it out if you haven't already. I know a lot of people have. I also know that there are obviously people who aren't going to enjoy this series, and again, that's cool too. Like, you don't have to enjoy the stuff that I enjoy, but I love this series. I now have 2 most surprising. So everything I've just shown you were 5 stars. These are my most surprising books, and then we're going to go on to the best series of the year for me. First one, in most surprising, is this beautiful book, Guzzle, by Anonymous. So this is like a historical retelling, but featuring a dragon and death golds, and it's really, really good, and I really enjoyed it. The reason this was surprising for me was more so the fact that, as I've said in every video, the first 100 or so pages, I wasn't sure if this was for me. I didn't know if I was going to carry. I didn't really see it as something that, it was a good book, but I didn't know if it was something that I wanted to continue. And then after that point, by gosh, do I want to continue. I have Baden Hill on my shelf to read. I've also been very kindly sent some audio codes for both Guzzle and Baden Hill, so I'm going to re-listen to Guzzle and then listen to Baden Hill, because I've got a lot of physical books I want to read this year, and if I've got audio codes for them, I will do that. And I'm travelling a lot this year, so I need to do that. But I really enjoyed this. Like I said, historical, so this is set in like King Arthur era type medieval Britain, but we also do go across the ocean and go to a desert and meet a princess as well, who is striving to kind of carve her own path in her way. There's a lot of really strong female characters in this, which I absolutely love. And we also get the sprinkling of English history in here a little bit with George, as in Saint George, I think, again foreshadowing, which is what I've said in every video that I've spoken about this book in, and it's just something that I kind of think is going to happen. We have a bit of Morgana in there, we have Arthur from Camelot in there, and it's just it's a good time. It's not, it's a scary dark time, but it's good to read. So that is my first most surprising book. And then my second, I'm just going to hold up the first book in this series, but it's actually all of them, and that is Cold from the North, which is the Onyx-Born Chronicles by D.W. Ross. I have been shouting about this man and his books all year. I read the whole series in this year. I was very lucky to be sent an ARC. I have like probably the only physical ARC, I think he said, of Fury, the Fury of Fate. That is not in existence. I'm pretty sure he's got one too, but no one else got sent one, so I feel very, very special for that. I need to buy the final book in hardback, so I have the complete series, as you can just about see. Oh, which way am I going? Behind me, so first, second, and that is the third, but that's the paperback edition, so I need to get the hardback edition, which is on my list to do this year. This series, we are following our main character Ogolf, who is from this tiny little village, and he always has been, but for some reason there is this horrible cold weather that just won't leave, and it's almost as if it's magical in some way. And then there is talk of a siege coming. So Ogolf and a lot of his village manage to escape, and they then go on the run to go to the south to try and seek help from the Shingali, who are southern. And the first book concentrates on that journey and the things that Ogolf learns and the world building. Then we go on to the second and third books. I personally think out of this whole series, the third book is 1000% the strongest. As I don't know if I've said it in a vlog, but I've definitely spoken about it with Ross. There are some pacing things within this series, purely I think down to the fact it's his first ever series that he has written. There are some character developments that I feel like we miss out on. However, I loved it. I really enjoyed the series. Again, first book I started to read and I wasn't sure if it was going to be for me, but 4 stars. The whole series is a 4-star series, and I loved it. I really enjoyed loving it. Well, I did enjoy loving it, but I really enjoyed reading it. I felt a really strong connection to some of the characters, and I loved learning with the characters. This for me is a series where nobody knows anything really, so our main character Olgolf is learning on the go and you're learning with him, and I quite enjoy doing that. So that's another reason why I really enjoyed this series. And now the moment of truth, the best series of the year, and this is a completed series because it completed in 2022, and I'm going to hold up the third book because I don't own them yet, and that is this, which is the Threadlight series by Zach Argyle. This series is my top series of 2022. The whole series is 5 stars. I loved every single book. I loved the magic system, the character development, the characters we meet, the characters we lose. It was very heartbreaking. There's a lot to it. This world is phenomenal in my opinion, and I love it. If you haven't read this book yet, I highly recommend that you do, because can you get the love that I have for this yet? Basically, I read the first 2 books audibly, and then I was very kindly sent an ARC of the third one, and it's a physical ARC, guys, of the third one, and I love it, and it's never leaving. So now I need to buy the special editions of these books that are signed, because I love this series and I need them, and I want to display them on my shelves. Where on my shelves? I don't know yet, but I want to do that, I think. Yeah. So this is my favourite series. So we are thrown in at the deep end really in the first book. Our first book follows the lovely Chris and his wife, who they have just had their firstborn child. They have this ritual in this land where babies don't open their eyes until their eye colour ceremony. That's probably not what it's called, but that's what it sounds like. Where they drop droppers into the baby's eyes and they open them, and that is when they show the colour. If they are blue, they are... So you basically weave with Threadlight, and if you have blue eyes you can weave with air, and if you have green eyes you can weave with earth, and if you have brown eyes you're achromatic, which means you can't see Threadlight at all. Chris is blue, and Ariel, his wife, is green? Other way around? This won't help me because... Either way. Chris and Ariel, his wife, are both thread weavers. Chris is part of the army, and pretty much from the minute their son is born, there's a lot of problems. And then they go to the eye colour ceremony, and he opens his eyes, and his eyes are amber, which are not a normal colour to have for a thread weaver, and it throws them into this whole whirlwind of events. You learn so much in this book. I love the context. You follow multiple characters as well from different parts of the world, which I think gives you a broader context as well of the world, which I really enjoy in fantasy books. I think the best thing about this book is probably the relationships between the characters. You see them strongly when they're there, you watch them develop, you watch them break down. I loved it. Best series of 2022. Zach, I don't know what you're going to write next, but I will be buying it because you're awesome, dude, and I loved this. So, yeah. There you go. That's it. That is all of my love shared with you guys. So, that is everything for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, really supports me and my channel. Leave me a comment down below of your best book of 2022. Like I said, mine is Bonds of Chaos. Well, not just Bonds of Chaos, but the whole series, because every single book is 5 stars. If you don't want to leave me a comment and you just want to leave me an emoji, leave me the love heart eye emoji, because I love, love, love these books, and I love talking to you about these books. And if you want to see more of me, please consider subscribing down below and ring that notification bell to get notified every single time I upload new videos. I am uploading every single day this week, so be sure to come back tomorrow to see what my next video is. But otherwise, that is everything for today's video. I hope you're having a great time, a great day, whatever you're having, and I will see you tomorrow for another video. Bye.